If you're like me, scrolling through watch pictures, imagining how certain watches will fit into your life, you probably developed a general sense of what specific features say about a watch when you look at the photos. At first glance, the Citizen Geo Trekker appears to be a chronograph watch with double pushers and a world time dial for tracking a second time zone of your choice. You also might assume that the dial is quite busy and hard to read. But if you thought those same things based on the photos like I did, then I'm here to tell you that all of those things are completely wrong. Join me as we go through this slightly perplexing new watch from Citizen. Hi guys, welcome back to Casual Watch Review channel. If you enjoy watch reviews, if you're new to the channel, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button and hit the thumbs up if you enjoy this type of content. So let's dive in. Before we start, big thanks to Citizen. They lent me this watch in for review, so it will be packed up and sent on to a new reviewer. And I'll tell you towards the end, I am pretty sad to send this one back. There's something about it that I really warmed to, but more on that towards the end. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that this new watch looks like a pilot's watch. It certainly has the debatably useful slide rule bezel, similar to other Citizen pilot-focused watches. Certainly it could be used by a pilot, but I'd say that this isn't a specific pilot's watch. It's aimed more at frequent travelers. From its appearance, it may seem like this watch is packed with features, but surprisingly, it's focused solely on world time. Interestingly, the dial with the world map at the bottom is not particularly useful for this world time focus, no matter how cool it looks. This watch comes in two versions in the US, the reference BY300653H with a standard brush surface, and this reference the BY3005-56G with a dark grey coated finish. This grey finish watch features a black dial with red accents for a somewhat tactical look. Interestingly, there is another version available in Japan that has neon accents to it, which I think looks pretty cool. In terms of dimension, this new Citizen Geo Trekker is a large watch. It measures at 46.7mm in diameter, a 50.6mm lug to lug, and 11.5mm thick. There is no doubt though, this watch is visually big. The bezel being thinner really accentuates the size of the dial. It's also not a light watch either, coming in at 183 grams with all of the links in the bracelet. The wearability I find to be really good. Citizen have a real knack of making larger watches fit really well, and this watch is no exception to that. Here you can see it on my 7.2-inch wrist. The bracelet really is nice, featuring a 5-link stainless steel construction. A president-style design that feels substantial and premium with brushed and polished elements. The clasp is a push button type with a well-machined mechanism. I might sound like a broken record here, but I really wish Citizen would start incorporating on-the-fly adjustment in these more premium watches. The clasp itself currently only offers 2 positions for adjustment with a tool. The competition excels at incorporating this on-the-fly micro adjustment, which is a must for people like me where your wrist might swell depending on the temperature outside. Other brands like Christopher Ward, Jack Mason, and surprisingly that Zelos that I reviewed a few months ago all have excellent on-the-fly micro adjust systems, and I wish Citizen would incorporate it in these watches, especially in a watch like this that's coming in at over $800 US. The bezel features an aviation scale related to fuel consumption, and I'm sure it can be used for other calculations. I'm not even going to pretend that I know how to use this type of bezel. If you are an aviator yourself, I'd love to hear your thoughts about these rule bezels, because they do come on a lot of Citizen watches and other watches like Breitling, for example. I'm thinking of the Navitimer. The case has a very geometric shape. The lugs are shorter, but I suspect you could easily get this on a NATO with those 22mm standard lugs. It has a solid steel case back with an engraving of the Northern Hemisphere, a nod to something we're going to talk about later. The 3 o'clock side of the case features a signed crown flanked by chronograph pump style pushers. Underneath that sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating seems like somewhat of a busy, maybe slightly intimidating dial. The dark background is contrasted by white, red and silver toned accents, ensuring quick legibility in most lighting conditions. The dial also features lume on the indices and hands, which is decent for a pilot's watch. The sword style hands and bolder indices draw your eye, so even with a busier dial, the time is quite easy to read. The date also stands out, even though it's placed further back in the watch than you would expect. This is an EcoDrive watch and they've had to fit the date further behind that solar element. Although the watch does appear to be a chronograph at first glance, the buttons are not used for a timing purpose. Instead, they check the remaining charge and indicate if the watch has recently received a time signal from the atomic clock. They do also have a secondary feature in the time setting mode, although it's a lot less exciting than these buttons were functioning in a chronograph. I mentioned at the start that this watch is focused on travelers, and the standout feature of this watch is the ease of changing to a second time zone. But you would be forgiven for thinking that the dial with the world map on it is how you easily read a second time zone. In fact, to see a second time zone, you simply pull the crown out to the first position, the second hand points at your home time zone, then you simply change to the desired one. The time and your home time zone are conveniently set using the atomic clock. And if you struggle to get the atomic clock reception where you are, I have a video on the channel showing how you can do this from an app on the phone. It seems like magic, but it definitely does work. Before we look at the other dials, I won't focus on this, but this watch also includes what I think is one of the most useless features on a watch, and that is a 24-hour dial. At least on this watch, it is a lot smaller, unlike a Seiko Mecha Quartz, for example, where they usually sacrifice one of the chronograph dials to show this fairly useless 24-hour dial. Okay, so let's talk about that dial that I've been hinting at, what looks like the map of the world on it. This is in fact an image of just the Northern Hemisphere, so looking down from the top of the Earth, and I guess if there's any flat earthers watching this essentially would be looking at the pizza if the pizza was on its edge. This top-down view of the globe is not something that I've seen on a watch before. It's not the usual view of the globe side on that we're used to seeing on other watches that have world time. This dial does look cool, but I'm not convinced that it's really that useful. Let me know in the comments if I've missed something here. Essentially, the dial can't be changed independently. It sets from the atomic clock and the red arrow always points at UTC time. The instructions show how you can use it to quickly reference another time zone, but with the small numbers, it requires some mental gymnastics to master. It's nowhere near as easy as a GMT watch that has its own dedicated hand pointing at a second time zone, or even other citizen watches where they have a small LCD display that can constantly show a second time zone, and it's not even as useful as if you could independently change that dial and point it to a time zone of your choice, I don't think. For me, this dial is just for show, but wow, what a show. It does look really cool on the watch. Powering this watch is the all-new Citizen EcoDrive H64. Interestingly, 864 is named after the number of seconds in a day, 24 hours equaling 86,400 seconds. Like other premium EcoDrive movements, this new caliber can be powered by any light source and runs for approximately 2.5 years in its power save mode. It offers radio control timekeeping, a perpetual calendar, and a charge indicator that is actioned by one of those chronograph style pushers. This watch is ready for swimming, snorkeling, or anything else you might do on your travels. Has a water resistance of 200 meters. This watch is coated, and it doesn't say on the website whether it's DLC coated, but I'm going to guess that it is. Some of the stainless steel might show through if you end up bashing this watch, but that all adds to the memories that you're going to put on this watch. Sometimes it really adds to the look of it. In conclusion, I really warmed to this watch, and that world time function that it does so well, I think is a genuine advantage if you are a frequent traveler like I am. If you are traveling, certainly city travel, it's not that flashy a watch, so I don't think it's going to draw any unwanted attention to it. This watch is coming in at over $800 here in the US, so it does put it in a very competitive market. But with the EcoDrive technology, the substantial feel and quality feel of the bracelet, the way that the case is constructed, how the bracelet fits nicely in with the case, when you get it in hand, it does feel like a premium watch. But of course, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. If you enjoy this review, don't forget to like the video and comment down below. And if you want to see more interesting watch reviews like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time on Casual Watch Reviews.